My favorite partnerships that we have are with the fine folks with the Gridiron Greats Association and also Southern Recipe Pork Rinds. Mark Singleton does a phenomenal job, and the Korean BBQ pork rinds are some of my favorites. And then Gridiron Greats, I've been going to their Super Bowl party each and every year, and they do a great job for former players in the NFL. So Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund is teaming up with the Southern Recipe Pork Rinds group once again, and we are all celebrating Pork Rinds Appreciation Day this year with the It's Crunch Time sweepstakes. From now until Pork Rind Appreciation Day, which is on February 9th, right here in the year of 2025, fans can engage on porkrinds.com, where they can enter to win the grand prize of 2 tickets, as well as airfare and hotel to the 2026 Super Bowl in Santa Clara, California, and a year's supply of pork rinds. Don't miss out. Visit porkrinds.com to enter to get in on the action, and it's crunch time. Enter to win at porkrinds.com. And quite frankly, if you win, maybe if you're listening to this show and that's how you end up winning, you should be sending me some pork rinds. I don't care about the Super Bowl tickets. I care about the pork rinds. And now joining us to talk about this and so much more is a Bills legend, an NFL legend. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's been an NFL MVP, and that is Thurman Thomas. Thurman, appreciate the time. How you been, my friend?
I've been friend. You know what? You're making me get ready to go back in there and grab my barbecue pork rinds. You talked about it so well. It was unbelievable. And you know what? You could be a sponsor for them. I can tell you that right now. It is great to be here with you, and great to be here in honor of Gridiron Greats and pork rinds, and giving away tickets to the Super Bowl next year in Santa Clara. I mean, it has been a wonderful couple of weeks since I've been with the pork rinds.
Well, it's great to see that you're on their team now. We'll talk more about that in just a bit, but I have a serious question for you right out of the gate, because this is near and dear to my heart. Blue cheese or ranch when it comes to your buffalo wings?
Oh man, you shouldn't even mention ranch. Don't even mention ranch.
Thank you. It's a big character flaw with me. Like when we do these interviews with draft prospects on this show, we'll have people that will say ranch, and I go, "You're off my draft board. I can't take you." I don't understand anyone that wants to dunk a beautiful buffalo wing in ranch. It's disgusting. Smother that bad boy with blue cheese.
It really is. And you know what? I tell you what, it has really taken on throughout kind of the country when you're talking about wings and blue cheese and ranch. I mean, you hear some of the stories that are coming out of Buffalo with players who have never been here before, and they don't know what to say. They probably from down south or on the West Coast, and they like ranch. They have no idea what blue cheese is, so they would automatically say, yes, I want ranch. And the fans here were crucified. They would tear them up and down for not knowing the difference.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor once brought that to my attention as well when I asked him that. He said, if you're from down south, it's ranch, but us East Coast guys, we're all over blue cheese, obviously. And, with the Buffalo conversation, I don't know what your favorite wing spot is, but for years, mine was Duff's whenever I go to Buffalo. And then one of my college buddies, Deion Dawkins, who still plays for the Bills, Tyler Medikevich, who's now with the Steelers, they sent me to Bar-Bill. Bar-Bill is phenomenal in Buffalo.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot, and I'm not going to get into what bar makes the best wings. I would just say this. My wife of 30 years makes the best wings.
You know what? That's a great answer. Happy wife, happy life. And when we see you in person at the Super Bowl, I'm expecting you to bring me some wings this year, and they're going to be covered in blue cheese, all right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you have won an NFL MVP before. There's a big debate this year. For a while, Saquon Barkley was getting talked about, but now it feels as if the MVP debate with the regular season is over, is down between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. What are your thoughts on the MVP conversation this year?
Well, you know what? It's one of those years where you look at Lamar and what he's done. I mean, he's actually raised his game to another level. And that's with adding guys like Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers coming to the forefront. He's always had Mark Andrews. But on the other hand, Josh lost his number one receiver this year. And people were saying that he don't have a number one. So how could this work? And I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think we've had like 12 or 13 guys that scored touchdowns this year. So when he said at the beginning of the year, everybody eats, he means that. I mean, because he's spreading the ball around and guys are making plays. And it's not just one guy. It's a collective team. And obviously, look, I would love to have a number one, but we've gotten this far with a number 2 seed, and we haven't got that. So, but I do give credit to the offensive line. They've done an outstanding job in protecting Josh. So, hey, it's a hard decision. I'm a Buffalo guy, so I want Josh Allen to win. I am not going to even agree. I want Josh Allen to win, and I want Saquon Barkley to come in second because he's a running back. We don't get this much. We don't get this much pub a lot these days. So, but you know what? It's not in my control, so I'm going to stick with Josh.
Yeah, I don't think you could go wrong here. And I know what Lamar's doing this year is sensational, Saquon too. But what you said, like you look at Lamar, he has Derrick Henry. You look at Josh Allen, I would argue his next best offensive player is James Cook. James Cook is a good running back, but he's not Derrick Henry,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But, when you look at these two different type of offenses, James Cook fits our offense perfectly, and Derrick Henry fits Baltimore's offense perfectly. So if they switch, I don't know which one would have a better day. I mean, James Cook has been a phenomenal guy coming out of the backfield, catching the ball. I think we got three really good running backs, Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. I think all three of those guys, whenever they're on the football field, they make plays all the time. So I'm glad that I'm not in that decision to make that final say of who is going to be the MVP. But I know if it's one or the other, we're going to hear this debate for a couple of years. And I think what it really comes down to, which one of these guys can beat Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, and you know what? I know that the MVP is a regular season award. I don't get that fired up, even though we're talking about it right now, but the MVP, because we've seen Josh be really good for a while. We've seen Lamar be obviously elite for a while, winning already 2 MVPs. It's now go time. You're in the postseason. Who gives a rat's ass, Thurman Thomas, who wins the MVP? Go beat the other, because we'll probably see Ravens and Bills divisional round if everything goes according to plan. And then you got the Chiefs waiting. And you could win an MVP. If you don't beat Mahomes when it matters, what does it actually then mean this year?
I agree with your point. You know what? It's not about, winning the MVP in a regular season. It's about beating Patrick Mahomes and the number 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. And I know it's going to be a tough ride for both, because these teams have to win 4 games in order to win a Super Bowl. Kansas City only has to win 3, and I think that's really kind of what's separating these teams. And they got an extra week of rest, Kansas City, and I think them getting the home field advantage. And you've seen this with New England. For 20 years, they were even the 1 or 2 seed, and that's how they made all those Super Bowls, because they were right there at the end. So Lamar, obviously, people want him to do better in the playoffs, but I think Josh has been pretty good in the playoffs. I think Josh has been toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the quarterbacks in the National Football League in the playoffs. He just haven't gotten over the hump to get to the AFC Championship game and get to the Super Bowl.
And the Bills have had some devastating losses. You know this as well, right? Being on great teams that be so close. There's a narrative that forms that even when you have a really successful season, it's, but can you get the job done? Do you feel like this team this year is equipped to get past that mental hurdle, or is it until you do it, man? It's easy to say, but you got to actually put action on the field.
I think this team is mentally ready to do that. I've watched them throughout the entire year. They went 13-4. They beat, they beat the number 1 seed in the AFC. They beat Detroit in the NFC. So I think this team is ready to take that next step. And I put a lot of that on Sean McDermott. He's had to endure, for the last couple of years with, the 13 seconds or why didn't you call a timeout here? He's had to endure all of that. And let me tell you something. It took Andy Reid a while to get his first Super Bowl win. And he just happened to get it with Patrick Mahomes. And I think Sean McDermott is in the same boat. I think he has a team that he wants. Obviously, I think some players could be better. Like we missed Jordan Poyer, you missed Micah Hyde and guys like that. But we've had guys that have filled in and done a great job for us. And I think, they're confident over there at One Bills Drive that this could be our year. But we need to get off to a great start against the Broncos.
Yeah, and you look at the Broncos, they got nothing to lose in this one. They've already had a successful season. Those guys have no pressure. No one's expecting them to win this game coming up on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll be curious to see what the Broncos are out of the gate, but even more so what the Bills are out of the gate, if they could just kind of squash them right from the jump and not make this a game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Bills need to get off to a fast start. I tell you, the one factor that I'm really afraid of is that you have Sean Payton on the other side. He's known to do a couple of things that could really disrupt your offense and your defense. Vance Johnson, I think he's done a great job being a defensive coordinator there. They led the league in sacks and with 63. And so that's a big point coming in. Like, do you blitz Josh Allen or do you rush 4? Because they haven't seen a quarterback like this before. I mean, they came here last year and they beat us. But a guy like Josh Allen, you just don't see a guy like this all the time and very often. So hopefully, Josh can be that guy, that Superman that we need. But this needs to be a collective group with offense, defense, and special teams.
Thurman Thomas here with us for a few more moments. We'll get back to Gridiron Greats and also Southern Recipe Pork Rinds in just a moment. So obviously, Bills fans have been talking about winning a Super Bowl for a long time. Same with the Detroit Lions. Can you imagine what that Super Bowl would be like with those two fan bases if you get Bills Mafia and all the crazy Lions fans in the big game coming up in New Orleans? I don't even know how either of those fan bases would get through it.
Dude, I have thought about that, and I have talked to Barry Sanders about that. I'm talking about it will be a Lake Erie showdown, obviously, we've been to 4, haven't won one, and Detroit has never been to one. So, I mean, it'll be one team or another coming out with their first victory. But they have, Dan Campbell and those guys have done an outstanding job down there. I'm sure you and everybody else can remember when they were 0-16, but they just kept getting better and better, getting better draft picks and draft choices, and they built that team. And I tell you what, Jared Goff has really turned into a nice quarterback. He's not under the pressure of McVay out in California. He's with a guy, Dan Campbell, who's going to be like, yeah, this is a guy I can go out and have a beer with, and that's the type of players that, coaches that players really love.
It's kind of funny because when I was at the Super Bowl a few years ago, when the Rams were in it at their home stadium, I left the game afterwards, and you wouldn't even be able to tell that it was a home team Super Bowl. Going to a Super Bowl neutral site with all the money that they spend, Bills play the Lions in the Super Bowl, you will know who everyone's rooting for after the game because whoever wins will be having the greatest party ever, and whoever loses, man, they're going to walk out of the stadium like they don't even know what actually hit them.
Like they don't even know what hits them. Like I said, like you said, it would be interesting to see because I know exactly how the Buffalo Bills fans are going to celebrate. I mean, we already know that. I mean,
Tables.
It's going to be a year-round thing where they're going to be celebrating. So we've waited. I mean, we haven't been there since 1993, and it's been a while. We went through the 17 years where we didn't even go to the playoffs, and now we had a chance. We got one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best player in the National Football League, and they're ready. We're ready, and man, I just hope because now I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Buffalo Bills, not a former player. I'm a fan. And I see what these fans go through. And let me tell you something. It's not fun at times, but it is great at times. And if they win the Super Bowl, oh, man, you guys have never seen anything like this before.
All right, before we get you out of here, I'll ask you about Gridiron Greats and also Southern Recipe Pork Rinds. But I have a great running back, a Hall of Fame running back on the show. The running back position the last few years took a hit, right? You could only win running back by committee. You don't need to overpay these bell cow backs. This year, that's changed with Derrick Henry joining the Ravens. Ravens, boom, right again, once a Super Bowl contender when a lot of people are out on them. Eagles, problems in the locker room last year. They had Saquon Barkley. Boom, everyone's thinking they could win a Super Bowl again. To see what Saquon and Derrick Henry has done for the running back position, what are kind of your thoughts on that?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, they're probably not going to pay us the big bucks, but we're in a situation now where, you know what, for years it was a passing league. And you were going out, you were getting these defensive back, you were getting guys who could get to the quarterback. Now, with this running game, you're going to have to maybe devise something a little bit differently now because we're not just going to be getting toward the quarterback. We're going to be running the football, and we're going to have guys that are 300 to 315 pounds that are going to be hitting on these guys who are 250, 260, who are trying to get to the quarterback. So I'm loving it. I've been really looking at the draft this year of all the running backs that are coming out. So I don't know if there'll be any. It might be a couple of first-round draft picks this year, but I can tell you what. Whatever running backs coming into the league, they're going to start making a difference here in the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, you got some good running backs. Ollie Gordon, Ashton Gentio, I've been a big fan of.
Yeah.
Hampton from UNC is also pretty good. There's some good backs coming in out of this draft.
Yeah. Yeah, there really is. And so, I'm really excited about that.
Last thing I'll ask you, the floor is yours, my friend. This has been a tremendous appearance today. Gridiron Greats is very close to my heart. I love the work that the fine folks do each and every year there, and also Southern Recipe Pork Rinds. Tell me everything that we got cooking.
Yeah, it's just it's a great organization led by Mike Dicker and Ron Jaworski and everybody. Actually, Brian Urlacher has stepped in for Mike Dicker. I didn't realize Mike Dicker was 85 years old. I've seen him a couple of years ago, and I said there's no way he's in his 80s. But they've had Brian Urlacher really take his spot, and it's been a great organization for a long, long time. And not everybody can be a millionaire, and not everybody can pay their bills. And this is what a brotherhood does for us. We come and we help our brothers that are in need for financial and medical needs, and that's what we do. And that's why we're trying to just raise as much money as we possibly can and make sure that everybody goes to porkrinds.com, enter your name for February 9th, 2025, Fan Appreciation Day. And so it's going to be great. It's awesome. Like I said, you win 2 tickets to next year's Super Bowl in Santa Clara. And it's great. And I'm so glad to be a part of it.
And once again, for more information, www.porkrinds.com. Are they bringing you back out to Buffalo this year for any of these playoff games? Because I'll admit this to you now. I'm a Patriot fan. I went to that playoff game a few years ago, Patriots and Bills. They had you and Jim Kelly before the game getting the fans all riled up, and I was like, we are cooked. We got no chance. I should leave right now.
Well, you know what? I live here, so I'm going to be on the field. I live here, so I'm going to be on the field getting those guys fired up. Hey, look, it's one of those games where, it's the playoffs, and I want my group to do well. James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, Reggie Gilliam. I want all those guys to do well. But it's going to be an exciting game for Bills Mafia and the fans around. But I just think that we're ready to go, and we're going to give this thing a good run this year.
Appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this.
All right. Appreciate you. Go Bills.